No, diolch Ellen. So yeah, just so as Ellen mentioned, well, the background to this was kind of looking into what is out there. So I'll run through kind of the report that has been published and is available on the website. Hopefully you can see the link in the chat there. If you can't, just let us know and we can pop that up again. So I've got a screen to share with you. So just to give you a bit of background for those that haven't met me before, I now work for Lafan Consulting Group and primarily as the educational consultant. But I have quite a long background in education. I've been an Estyn peer inspector and an Estyn inspector for the last 10 years. I was head teacher at Ysgol Gwnaed for 8 years and have worked at several other schools as well. But now kind of looking at education materials and facilitating workshops such as these as well. So the actual screen I'd like to share with you, if I can just pop that up. Hopefully you can see that now. If somebody can wave just to let me know. Yep, I can see a thumbs up there. So I'll share that there. So again, the brief that we had initially was to look at the potential of using wool in the curriculum. And there was a discussion report following the meeting we had with the cluster and with interested parties back in September. And as Ellen mentioned, part of that then, the recommendation that we gave was to run a scoping study to look at what materials were actually out there. So again, the aim for today is to share the findings of that report and as well to provide an opportunity for you to come in, to ask questions, to discuss or share any kind of thoughts that you may have on ways forward. So I'm going to run through the main headings of the report. I won't go through it in detail because you can obviously read through it yourselves on the website as well, but I'll highlight a few additional thoughts perhaps as well. So feel free to raise your hand, or even easier, normally I can stop. I'll probably stop better if you actually shout out as well. So please do feel free to just cut across if you've got anything to add. So we've got obviously the Wool Manifesto for Wales, and it's kind of thinking of an education material that kind of builds on that. I think the word there that we need to kind of highlight is proud. And how do we get the children or the young people that work with wool to be proud of the wool heritage that we have in Wales? So I'll run through today the background, the study aims, the scope of the research, and to give you an overview of the current context as well. There we are. So as part of the scoping we did for the project, we sent out a questionnaire, and so I've just shared a few of the findings here. So you can see in that first section, there were 30 responses to the questionnaire, and not surprisingly, over 50% there you can see worked in the primary sector. But we were really pleased to have representation from all the sectors there as well. The second pie chart there, what we can see is that very few schools at present do use wool resources. But I think what's very positive is that the orange section here is they don't use it currently, but they are interested. And I think that is something that will grow as well, the interest. The new curriculum for Wales now is statutory for primary schools, and there's a rollout now for secondary education. And one of the key aspects of the new curriculum is keeping things local, and wool also hits such a diverse range of things in terms of sustainability. So there's a lot of positives for sharing resources on wool. And again, the third one here we can see is where the members that did take part in the questionnaire aware of any resources on wool, and a very small minority were aware of resources online. But that gives a backdrop really to some of the findings there. The report itself also includes just a couple of case studies. So I think this was probably kind of outside the brief, because we were looking particularly at wool materials in Wales, but we did think it was really interesting to highlight perhaps a couple of countries that seem to be doing a really positive and a really good job on sharing their passion about wool. So we've got two case studies here, the Australian and New Zealand case studies. And so what we can see is the points, I think, to raise from the case studies is the relevance. So they bring in wool into the curriculum. There's it's an important part of the curriculum. They bring it into their STEM work, the science, technology, and it kind of covers the whole curriculum. So that's one important kind of thing that we kind of picked up from the case studies, is the relevance. And it's also, they seem to be materials that are scalable as well. And I think that's part of their kind of success as well. I think one interesting one is the terminology. The Wool in Schools initiative includes the Maori terminology. And I think there's one character, the sheep character in the resources, is kind of learning the Maori language. So that's something that could perhaps be transferable to Wales as well, where we have perhaps a dafad yn dysgu Cymraeg, and that could be kind of part of the story there. So that approach could be considered. Accessibility and experience as well. There's a big stress on making sure that for the activities as part of the packs that they have are accessible. They also provide hands-on experiences. So they have kind of mini looms. You can see in the centre photograph there's the wool shed, and that's actually a physical trailer that actually goes to school and has lots of different activities within that. And so having those kind of teaching moments and having those experiences could potentially have a bigger impact on the students as well. And then, so lastly, I think it's the scalability as well. So if we look at creating the materials and generating more output for the education industry, so that it can be scaled along the continuum from early years into the universities as well. So I think it's mostly evident in Australia, where the education materials are available kind of all the way up to the more experienced practitioners studying at the degree levels. So if I move forward from that, so we're back now in Wales. So when we were scoping the materials that were available in Wales, so we probably came across more than we expected initially. I think we found around kind of 23 resources that were available online. There was little evidence of them being used, quite a few of them. I think one of the most popular ones that was being downloaded is the A Woolly Yarn, and that's a series by Meinir. She has, I think there's 6 books in the series, but there are very nice activities online as well. If you go on to Wenfro Education, so she's got the books, but she's also got activities that go hand in hand with that. They are for the younger pupils, so they're mostly for the foundation phase, I would say, kind of up to 6-7-year-olds. They are also kind of linked to the new curriculum in Wales as well. So that was the most up-to-date material or resource that was out there. The key providers were the National Wool Museum. They had several different resources. NFU had, again, a few resources. I think what's similar between several of the ones I'll be discussing now is they have activities. They haven't, as of yet, been aligned with the new curriculum for Wales. But we'll probably discuss as we go on. There have been discussions with NFU and Leaf Education here, we can see. And that is something that a lot of parties are kind of now looking at in there as well. We've got the British Wool. They've got a few kind of activities or online games on their website. Farming Countryside Education, Leaf Education here. So they've got a resource booklet. Again, doesn't currently align with the Welsh curriculum in its new form, but with a bit of tinkering, that could be adapted. Leaf Education also are very interesting because they provide support to schools to make visits to farms and settings as well. And I think there has been a tendency over the past few years for schools not to go out to local farms. So I know from experience here that the children here go to Folly Farm on Anglesey rather than a farm kind of literally on the doorstep here in Llanelli. But I think there's been such kind of so many things in terms of health and safety and so many concerns. But I think schools seem to now be trying to engage more with their communities, getting that links with the community. So hopefully there'll be kind of, we'll see that being reverted back to children kind of visiting real settings and real farms. And Leaf Education can really support schools with that as well. Atebol are a publisher. They are the publishers for Llynos Mair with the woolly yarn. Again, Atebol have a few online materials, nothing present on wool. And Twinkle as well is a platform that teachers can subscribe to, schools can subscribe to. They have resources on wool, so several materials on wool. So there's potential for collaboration there. And then kind of looking at settings for secondary education, there were a few materials by the WJEC. Looking further into further education, universities, we found very, well, we didn't find any kind of published materials. There were reference to a few kind of books, but I spoke to a few people, and what we found was that they had materials, but it was something that they'd created themselves. It hadn't been published, it hadn't been shared. But there were textile courses, but nothing, in the published form at present. So that was a key findings, kind of an overview, if you like, of what was found. You can see in the report there's links to each of the resources, so that if you wanted to kind of delve further and have a look at them firsthand, you can follow those links. The second part of looking at the scoping was trying to find what the best learning platforms would be, and how people or how teachers do actually source, or where they go to look for their materials. And we can see here there are kind of four runners, if you like. So Hub Cymru, which is the platform that's shared by the Welsh Government for Welsh schools. So that was one of the main ones that, in terms of popularity of the responses in the questionnaire. Again, to YouTube. YouTube is accessible to all. Hub Cymru, if I just go back to Hub Cymru, is accessible. All teaching staff in schools will have access to Hub Cymru. Private sector schools won't currently. And so if you look at home learning settings, they may not be able to access those there. But children in school settings will have access, as well as teachers. So Twinkle was probably the third kind of most popular. Again, very popular for looking at materials. There's lots of presentations there. There are a few on wool in general, so they don't look at the wool in Wales in particular, but with some adaptment, they could be made relevant to the wool in Wales as well. Twinkle, as I say, it is subscribed to. There is a payment, but you could potentially work with Twinkle to have those resources available without need for the subscription. So there are a few kind of free resources there. And there are groups that have worked with Twinkle again to create materials, and BBC Bite Size as well. So they have several resources, most of them developed through lockdown. So that, again, could be a possibility for collaboration. And probably the other one there to highlight is the CABAC, is the WJEC for the secondary sector there. So if we look at, or can kind of consider the conclusions really from the report, so there are a range of resources, but at present, I would say that very few relate to wool from Wales in particular. And again, very few of them support the new curriculum for Wales. We'll also find that there are very limited resources available bilingually in the Cymraeg, in Welsh as well. We didn't find or didn't scope any materials to support higher education. In the report itself, we highlighted a few opportunities for collaboration. So the NFU, interestingly, are thinking this year, I think, of looking at wool. So I'll pass over perhaps to Ellen in a few minutes, just after I've run through these, because she can probably update. But we sent over details to Ellen with NFU. The National Wool Museum, again, that's highlighted. So they have the materials there. So they have sessions at the museum as well. Atebol is potentially somebody that could be collaborated with, so they do create resources. Again, Twinkle likewise would be able to be you'd be able to work with Twinkle again. And Leaf Education isn't down in the report, because I think kind of as discussions progressed, I think we had back from them a few weeks later than the date for the published report. But I think if I pass over to you, Ellen, you may be able to update on perhaps discussions with NFU and Leaf.
Yes, yeah, thanks, diolch Meinir. So yeah, since the report's been published, we've been just trying to make contact with some key people from Meinir's report. So NFU have been really, really good. We've been speaking to Josh over there, and he's really keen for us to get involved if we can with the British Science Week in March. And that kind of reaches 60 to 70,000 students, so that's really good. But he hasn't got much in the medium of Welsh at the minute, so we're speaking to him about translating a few exercise sheets. So he's shown us a couple of different ones that they're working with. He was calling them exercise sheets to us, and so we're going to translate them for them. And also we've shared with him our kind of 360 experience that we're working on with the project through Virtuous Tech in Cardiff. So they've been working on that for us. It's nearly finished. We're just collating feedback from people that are in the experience. So he's seen that, and he's really keen to share that in the Science Week as well. And whether it's also available on VR headsets, which can be really good and interactive for some schools. So obviously dependent of if they have the VR headset in schools. We've got a couple with the project, so obviously we'd be willing to travel around as well if some schools were wanting us to do that. They're doing quite a lot, and he was really keen. So he was really keen for us to get involved. So that's really good. So it will remain in contact with them and see how we can carry on and sharing their resources. And then we've been speaking to Leaf Education, so Countryside Classroom. So they're kind of a group where you kind of become a partner and there's an annual fee, which is not something obviously we're looking into, but they will still share resources there free of charge. So they have twice monthly blogs, they have newsletters that go out monthly, they reach up to 10,000 people, and they've got a teachers advisory panel that they share any resources there and see like which ones should they share, or where should they go. We've shared with them the 360 experience as well, and they're really keen to upload that and share that resource once it's ready. And then just on the higher education, Anna Fenton from the Welsh Wool Company, she's been someone that's really been advocating that and speaking to us for a while now. So that's something that we're hopefully going to try and move that forward with her. Unfortunately, she's not been able to make it here today, but hopefully we'll make some progress there as well. So yeah, that's the update from me, Meinir. Yeah, that's what we've got so far.
Excellent. Diolch, Helen. So I think you mentioned about the Science Week with the NFU Science Week. So that sounds really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Engaging. I think if that is going to kind of progress, and that will be available through the medium of Welsh, so I think what's really important is that we get that message out to schools. And I think one way to do that would be to get in touch with all the consortias for schools. So they have weekly newsletters. So if we know that it's going to be part of the Science Week, I'm not aware of. I think very few schools in Wales at present do kind of sign up for that Science Week. But if there's a link to the Welsh curriculum, activities available bilingually as well, I think teachers need to know, and a really good way to get that message out would be on or through the consortias. Yeah. So yeah, I'll just finish off then, just sharing. I'll share my PowerPoint again, just to look at the final page, which was the recommendations from the report that came out back in November. So we're actually hitting that first one today, just sharing the findings of the report with you here. But kind of steps going forward there, to investigating the level of interest again. Discussions are in place with the NFU, Hub Cymru. Again, we mentioned that as the platform, a potential platform for sharing the resources. The approach to working with Hub Cymru now, they have guidelines on how to produce materials, and then you would send off the materials and they would kind of stamp it yes or no, they would consider, and they would work with you on the materials. But there are quite stringent guidelines on the resources that they would share. I think because of the changes to the new curriculum and the number of resources now that are being updated, it will probably take a few months to get things through onto Hub. So again, developing learning resources on the principles of co-production, so contacting the NFU is a priority. So again, Ellen has been working closely with the NFU there. Again, with any materials that are kind of created potentially in the future, I think it's really important to have a really clear overview of kind of what's intended for the pack, so that there is representation from the sector, and there's a steering group that leads that then through to the actual final production of the materials. And again, I think it's kind of making sure that resources such as the 360-degree videos and things that Gwnaed Gwlân already have in place, so they can be transferred really easily into learning materials and would really enrich pupils' experiences as well. So again, another approach to developing materials is to work with the schools. A lot of the curriculum for Wales now, there's a lot of stress on the pupil engagement, pupil voice. So having the pupils again to feed in their ideas on what they would like to do as well. So involving schools when producing the materials is a really useful way of understanding kind of what really hits the mark with the pupils and learners as well. Again, I mentioned the kind of 360 videos, utilising the available materials there, and signposting schools and colleges to the relevant materials, to social media, to that we target schools so that they're aware of any materials available on the Gwnaed Gwlân website. And again, going back to what I mentioned earlier about the consortias, that could be something to just having a small slot there, just highlighting that there are resources available perhaps on the website there. So I'll stop sharing there, and I can see a few faces, but I know that some of you as well haven't got your cameras on because of technical issues as well, but feel free to ask any questions.
Hello, it's Sian here from Hub Pentrydwr. Thanks for that. That was brilliant, actually. And I mean, I'm obviously interested in the wool elements because of our project at Hub Pentrydwr, but also I'm a school governor at a Welsh medium school. So, you know, you said at the end there about sharing the list of resources on Hub and also on Mewn's Gwnaed Gwlân website. Yeah. I missed it, sorry, because the internet's sort of intermittent, but are they there already or are they going to be put on there?
No, we're in the stage at the moment. This is just the stage where we're scoping what is already out there.
Okay.
There's no materials at present available, but hopefully in future funding granted that there will be kind of resources there. There are, as Ellen mentioned, discussions going on with the NFU and the possible collaboration with the Science Week that they have, I think in March, am I right, Ellen?
Yeah, March, yeah.
So that would be really useful for schools to know about that.
Okay.
But we can put on the website the resources that we've discovered from this scoping study on the website.
Oh, will you? That's great, because you know, the woolly yarn and you know that page that you put up, it was really small on my screen because I'm only on an iPad because it's the only thing I can get you on. But yeah, it was quite small. I couldn't read all of that properly, so that would be really useful. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think just in relation to that, Sian, Meinir, who wrote the Wenfro series, she does visit schools and so she does do workshops. So if you were looking at something to target sustainability or kind of wool, she'd be a really good contact for the school.
That's brilliant, actually. Does she aim it at all key stages? So foundation,
foundation phase. Yeah.
Oh, mainly foundation. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Lovely. Diolch.
Croeso.
Just gwrthio bellach, Sian, gadw ni wybod.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Diolch yn fawr.
Yeah, anybody else with any thoughts, any ideas? If you've think out of the box, it doesn't have to be something that I've mentioned.
If you've got any questions, Sue, then just give us a shout. I'll just put our email on there as well.
Oh, great.
There we are. So, yeah.
Yes, yeah, diolch. I guess, yeah, if no one's got any other questions, we'll keep you informed with how we move forward with NFU and Science Week. We'll put the resources that have been found on the website. And like I said, we're looking at, if possible, putting something together for higher education. But yeah, we'll keep everyone updated on our socials and through the newsletter. But if there's something, you don't want to speak to, do it on here. If you want to just drop us an email, then please feel free to do that.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you all.
Diolch pawb.
Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi.
Hwyl.
Hwyl.
Diolch. Hwyl fawr.
Hwyl fawr.